About this time the Istari, that is the wise men or wizards, appeared in the west lands of Middle-earth. It is not known whence they came, but afterwards, when it was revealed that the shadow of Sauron had begun to take new shape at this same time, it was said by many that they came out of the far west, and were messengers sent to contest the power of Sauron if he should arise again, and to move all good folk and kindly creatures to resist him. Welcome to Tales of Arda, where we discuss and explore Middle-earth. Today we are going to answer 2 questions about the wizards of Middle-earth. Just to be clear, the Istari is just another word for the group of 5 wizards sent to Middle-earth. What was the true purpose of the Istari? Before we try to answer that, we'll give you a quick summary on the history of the wizards. At a great council of the Valar, 5 Maiar were chosen: Curima, Olorin, Iwendil, Alatar, and Palando. These Maiar would become the wizards Saruman, Gandalf, Radagast, and the 2 blue wizards, Morimatar and Romestamo. They would arrive at different times, the 2 blue wizards in the Second Age, and the rest in the Third Age. The blue wizards, or the Ifrin Luin, went east and aided the few rebellious tribes of the Easterlings. Radagast would live in the great forest of Greenwood and be a friend to all kind creatures. Saruman would become wise in law and knowledge and later live in Isengard, and Gandalf would wander Middle-earth, befriending all good beings and assisting the vulnerable. Now that we have a short summary of each of the wizards' dealings, what was their true purpose? The quote at the beginning of this video gives a hint at their purpose. It was said by many that they came out of the far west and were messengers sent to contest the power of Sauron. As is told in this quote, the wizards were sent to battle Sauron. The Valar had not yet forgotten Middle-earth as Sauron had fought, but instead of intervening themselves, they sent the Istari. They were clothed in bodies of old men. Their powers were restricted so that they would only assist the people of Middle-earth and not dominate them. Of their mission Sauron knew little, as is told in this quote. If he thought about the Istari, especially Saruman and Gandalf, he would imagine them as emissaries from the Valar, seeking to establish their lost power again and colonize Middle-earth. In this quote it is clear that Sauron could not understand the purpose of the Istari, for they hid their powers and did not build vast kingdoms, and so they had success for some time. Now let's take a side turn and look at the blue wizards. In early writings the wizards arrive at the same time, or close to the time, that the rest of the Istari arrive. But in later writings, published in the History of Middle-earth collection, Tolkien states that the blue wizards arrived much earlier, in the Second Age. The other 2 came much earlier, at the same time probably as Glorfindel. When matters became very dangerous in the Second Age, Glorfindel was sent to aid Elrond and was pre-eminented in the war in Eriadil, but the other 2 Istari were sent for a different purpose. From this quote we see that the possibility that they came at a similar time to Glorfindel. But as Glorfindel aided Elrond, the Ifrin Luin went east. Their dealings in the east were great, but most of all they stirred up rebellion among the few tribes of Easterlings that had stopped worshipping Melkor. For an explanation on the purpose of the blue wizards, let's look at a short essay about the wizards. Their task was to circumvent Sauron, to bring help to the few tribes of men that had rebelled from Melkor worship, to stir up a rebellion. In the days of the awakening of men, Melkor had corrupted and turned to evil many men, but after years some had forgotten about Melkor. So the blue wizards were sent to aid the east, and the rest to battle Sauron in the western part of Middle-earth. But were any successful? and which ones? Let's find out. Starting with the Blue Wizards, another quote explains just how Tolkien in his later writings views their success. They must have been a great influence on the history of the Second Age and the Third Age in weakening and disarraying the forces of the East, who would both in the Second Age and the Third Age otherwise outnumber the West. Though this quote tells that they succeeded in stopping the armies of the East, they did not succeed in every task. And after his first fall to search out his hiding, in which they failed. During the first ousting of Sauron from Dol Guldur, Sauron fled east, and the Blue Wizards failed in uncovering his location, as is told in this quote. Now we have had a look at Tolkien's later version, but what does his earlier writings tell us? What success they had, I do not know, but I fear that they failed, as Saruman did, though doubtless in different ways, and I suspect they were founders of, or beginnings of, secret cults and magic traditions that outlasted the fall of Sauron. If they had succeeded, they would have surely gone west with Gandalf at the end of the Third Age. Wilt thou learn the lore that was long secret of the five that came from a far country? One only returned, others never again. This quote tells us only one Istari returned to Aman, that being Gandalf. And so, if the Blue Wizards had failed and become corrupted, they would have surely not gone west. However, there is another possibility, which I believe to be most likely, that the Ifrin Luin were killed during their struggle against Sauron. This would make sense, as we see that the Istari can be killed, and it would explain why they did not return to Aman. Let's now turn to the three wizards that stayed in the western parts of Middle-earth. Radagast the Brown, Saruman the White, and Gandalf the Grey all come into The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. As you probably know from the Peter Jackson adaptations and the books, only Gandalf sails west. It is clear that Saruman fails, for he attempted to invade Rohan and destroyed parts of the Shire. Though never truly on the side of Sauron, he is definitely not on the side of good. And finally, at his death, Saruman's spirit turns to go west, but is blown away by a wind from the west, and so he did not succeed in his mission to oppose Sauron. But if Gandalf is the only one to succeed, what about Radagast? Surely Evanna would not accept that her servant, who was friendly to all animals, had failed. An interesting scene occurs in the Two Tower book. Whilst the three hunters are resting, they see a figure in a hat. The three hunters believe this to be Saruman or Gandalf, but Gandalf dismisses both options. It is possible this wanderer was Radagast. But if Radagast did not sail west, it does not mean that he failed in his task. Being a good friend of all creatures, and a carer of forest, should be good enough. He was, in short, a bit less wise than the other Istari. And to summarize this part of the video, Gandalf was the only wizard to return west, Saruman was killed and his spirit was left to wander, and Radagast stayed in Middle-earth, but the Blue Wizards were either slain or joined Sauron. I hope this video has answered some questions on the Istari. If you like this type of video, comment below. And as always, please like and subscribe.